Abbott thing. We've been going around in circles over the last few days. It's getting a bit boring now, quite frankly. Anyway, look, we've got to the end of it. She's allowed to stand now. Is that good?
I don't think it is, actually. I think with Diane Abbott, it's a symbol of how the left really gives people a free pass. There's a double standard here. If you look at everything Diane Abbott has said in recent years, well, crikey, let's think about it. Jews don't experience racism. White people can't possibly understand black patients in hospitals. Oh, here's another classic. Chairman Mao did more good than harm. Also, white people like to divide and conquer. Another classic by Diane Abbott. Yet here we are, the Labour Party, and many people, let's be honest, in the wider media class and commentariat, falling over themselves to ensure that this person is allowed back into frontline politics. And let's be honest, the only reason for that is because Diane Abbott happens to be black, right? And she happens to be a black female Labour MP. And I think, personally, that's disgraceful. I don't think she should be in frontline politics. I think the things she said about Jews, about white people, about Chairman Mao and his disastrous genocide in China, I think are completely outrageous. So, no, I don't think this is a great day.
Paul Embry?
I share her party. I don't share her politics. The word trailblazer has been used a lot, and I think that's right. She is a trailblazer, and it's been really badly handled. I think she should be allowed to stand. I think she's earned the right to stand, having been the MP for that constituency for so long. Some of the things that she said over the years, Matt's right, are frankly balmy. But the Labour Party is a broad church, and she is probably just at the margin. She's right up against the wall of that broad church, I would say. The left-hand wall. And I think a lot of mainstream Labour Party people don't necessarily support her politics, but admire her for what she's done in politics. You know, being the first black woman being elected as a Member of Parliament. She's taken an awful amount of abuse over the years that she didn't deserve, frankly. You know, this is a self-inflicted wound the last 3 days for the Labour Party. There's a kind of top-down process that's taking place, which I'm not comfortable with, where the leader's office and members of the NEC are essentially trying to impose particular candidates and deselect other candidates. I don't think that's healthy for any party, particularly one that's aspiring to government. I don't think it's good for democracy. Diane Abbott has pushed back and she's won, and actually I'm quite glad that she did.
Just to be clear, because I think it's an important point, you can be concerned about Diane Abbott being in frontline politics and be concerned about the lack of democracy within the Labour opposition, and I share your point there. But I think there is a double standard with the identitarian left, right, that they are consistently given a free pass. I mean, if I was a politician on the Conservative side,
hang
as
on,
a white, straight
people
male...
are not professors of politics. We're sitting there going, what do you mean identitarian left? Just tell them what you mean.
I mean, when it comes to identity politics, certain groups are given a free pass because they happen to come from a certain background. And I think that's what's happening with Diane Abbott. So, for example, if I said the equivalent as a white, male, straight, Conservative MP as an example that, you know, on balance, actually, I think Hitler did, you know, more good than harm, or black people can't possibly understand white people, or black Britons don't experience racism like other groups, which is the equivalent of what she said.
No, I get that.
I don't think for a second I would be tolerated in British political life. And for good reason, by the way.
To be fair, there have been white Labour MPs who have said things that have been completely wrong. Neil Coyle, for example.
Sure.
Barry Shearman have said things that people have suggested are anti-Semitic and arguably were anti-Semitic. And Neil Coyle said and did things which were beyond the pale and got a slap on the wrist. Now, I'm not particularly in favour of drumming MPs out. I'm not suggesting they should have been drummed out. But there is a certain double standard at play where people like Faiza Shaheen in Woodford and Diane Abbott in Hackney are being treated in a certain way. And I'm not suggesting that is because of their race.
Faiza Shaheen also said some pretty outrageous stuff about Sajid Javid.
And I'm not suggesting they're being treated that way because of their race, or in Shaheen's case, because of her religion. But I think people are right to...
People are, though, because there was an open letter written earlier on today, wasn't there, by a collection of different people saying that this was the treatment of Diane Abbott was, I quote, systemic racism.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that.
Why are you laughing at that?
I don't agree with that.
Everything we don't like is systemic institutional racism.
I don't agree with that.
You know, by the way, is systemic racism. The countryside is systemic racism.
I don't think it's racist, what's going on with Diane Abbott, but I do think it smacks of double standards, and I do think people are right to say it's hypocritical. She's been treated in a way, in a punitive way, that other people within the party who happen to be more loyal to the leader have not been treated, when arguably they've said and done things.
I think I actually agree with you on some of that, but again, the double standard works two ways, yeah.
But this is what I was saying to you when I was saying this, the toing and froing stuff. It's a bit boring because it doesn't connect me more with what's going on in politics. I don't sit there and go, oh, it's on, it's off, they're falling out about this. It makes many people, just disengage a little bit more because it just feels like all this infighting, all of this briefing against each other, you're just turning people away.
You need to understand it's an SW1 bubble story, and the SW1 bubble, their priorities are very different from the priorities of most people outside the M25. This is something that Matt's written extensively about. But this kind of stuff, this kind of infighting, and the Labour Party having a very mini civil war over the last 3 days, I don't think it will make a single difference come the actual ballot day. I think people look at it, register it, and then completely forget about it.
Something that else that caught my eye, politics-wise today, was an MP speaking out about a little gift, so to speak, that she's received through the letterbox.
Today, the police are at my office because somebody has put excrement through the letterbox. One of my volunteers had to find that this morning. Now, I understand that women get more than their fair share in political environments, but this attempt to bully me will not work because it is not the decent or right thing to do.
That was Catherine Fletcher there. She's running for re-election in South Ribble. Why did you laugh then?
Something about that video I just find rather amusing. I don't know what it is. It's just a bit of a naff video. But there is a serious point actually behind this, which is the harassment of MPs and politicians. And actually, I think if you look at where British politics over the last year, well, actually, really the last 6-7 years, we've got a number of serious cases of MPs.
Well, you've just had that guy, we heard about it in the bulletins there, didn't we? That fella that's just been threatening Ed Miliband. I mean, it is pretty damn disgraceful because we should be able to respectfully disagree within politics. And many people, they just don't have that in them. They can't just disagree with someone. They have to then go the next step and absolutely hate that person, want to cause harm to that person. But let's cut to the chase. People shouldn't be posting TEDs through other people's letterbox.
No, they shouldn't. And you put it so colourfully, Michelle. No, they shouldn't. Those incidents are appalling and they shouldn't happen. But at the same time, we can't have politicians hiding away because that link between the voter and their representative is an extremely important one. And I think if we cocoon politicians, we wrap them up in cotton wool, then we undermine democracy. There's been a couple of dreadful incidents over the last decade. We know that. People like Joe Cox and David Amess. But by and large, I think it's good for prospective candidates for Parliament to meet the voters. It's good that the likes of Gillian Duffy confront a Prime Minister and say, actually, I don't think you've got a handle on immigration. This was a working-class woman in a Labour constituency saying things that Gordon Brown probably didn't get said to him directly.
Yeah, but he called her a bigot, though, didn't he, when he had his hot mic on?
Exactly. The mask slips from time to time. But having the ability as a voter, most voters will never experience it, but having the ability as a voter to buttonhole politicians and to say, these are my priorities, I think it's really important, especially, as we said before, because many of them do live in the SW1 bubble, politicians. So we don't want to be wrapping them up in cotton.